We're back.
I'm back from dinner. We're in front of the fire. 7:30 p.m. I just made some chamomile tea for Derek and detox tea for myself. You're also drinking non-alcoholic beer at the same time.
I cracked open a non-alcoholic beer. These are almost a topic of their own. These things are really good. So, like...
You're still amazed every time you crack open a can. You're like, this is so good.
Yeah, if you have some dumb compulsion where you need to drink something that tastes like beer or whatever, these are, these are 1-to-1 in my opinion. I don't know much about it, but they taste pretty good.
I think someone at the last mending party brought a 6-pack of them, and he said, "Do you want a beer?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'll have a beer." He said, "Oh, well, it's non-alcoholic," and you're like, "Well, never mind." You actually said, "Oh, well, never mind."
Yeah. That was kind of
Straight
awkward.
to his face, and I love that he was like, "Well, okay then."
Yeah, that's funny.
And then later, 2 days later, you were like,
I guess.
"This is amazing."
Yeah, I guess he got me on those again.
I should text him and tell him.
You know, people who've known me for a really long time aren't aware that I ever, resumed drinking. This is, I've got a long history.
You're outing yourself if they ever hear this, that you fell off the straight edge wagon for a minute there.
I did, yeah. Although I can definitely envision myself just returning.
To drinking?
No, not to drinking.
Oh, to sobriety.
Yeah, maybe I just wax and wane in terms of my passion for sobriety, but I definitely, I don't know. I guess it's a whole nother topic, but I've just been feeling more of a connection to it again. So So anyway,
Yeah.
actually, something that happens when we have these conversations is I'll say something and then it will stick in my brain because it's there's more that I need to say about it. You know what I mean? It's these conversations just trigger further conversations between us. I mean, it makes sense. The thing that's been sticking in my head is this idea that we've discussed of performing. And how I'm yeah, you want to embrace facing this the excitement of it, and don't turn it into a thing that you retreat to a place of comfort and embrace this feeling of jumping off a cliff. I don't even know. It's gonna be different for everybody, I assume, but that's just a thing that I know is a shorthand way of explaining what makes all the difference for me is there's a big courage element, and that's maybe the main thing for me when I do anything involving performing is it's a reflection of courage. But I just wanted to say that because you might have a completely different relationship. You have much more experience speaking in front of lots of people in recent years than I do. So actually, I don't know. I just felt like I said it as if it was true. It's true for me.
Yeah, I think we could add that asterisk to everything. Let it be known that from henceforward, is that how you say that?
Henceforth or
henceforth?
I don't know.
Henceforth. I don't know what that accent was. Drunk leprechaun. That I think often you and I say things as blanket statements or out loud, not because we believe them wholeheartedly, but because we're testing them on for size too. So there's one, maybe this doesn't apply to you, asterisk, of course, and two, nothing written in stone is meant to apply to everyone and to all of us, including ourselves, because Yeah, it's part of the process. But it sounds like maybe, was it that you were afraid that, let me ask the question differently, actually. Had it been just the two of us, would you have added that asterisk of, well, that's just true for me. I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yes, I would have.
Still added that?
Yeah, I would have, because I feel like I was too forceful in my opinion in such a way that maybe like splashed paint onto your canvas or something.
Oh. What were you afraid would be the effect that you splashed paint on my canvas?
Well, like Mirror House, the band is... I've performed as a musician. This is new for you.
True.
So...
Very true.
Kind of like building up an even more complicated and scary story doesn't seem productive if you have a different relationship with your like vision for yourself as a musician.
Yeah, you didn't want to impact my own goals or ideals about what performing would feel like, or what it should be like, how much surrender there should be. Is that it? You didn't want to stress me out further.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it did stress me out. I think to your point, I have performed enough in ways that were scary to me. I think it's helpful to me to remember that it's a similar muscle to move yourself to still perform through that fear or that like mini terror or that like quick reflex to go hide somewhere safe.
Yeah.
So I do, and actually when I think of that, again, I've never performed as a musician, so it's its own scary thing. But it's been helpful for me when I remember my theory, which is that I do have a nervous system memory of feeling that like freak out panic. And breathing, changing my posture, and then like somewhere in like my head or like the end of my spine when it connects to like my brainstem, it feels like it comes from there. Like then I can like, it just like that part of my brain like hones in on like what the fuck I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And I just like, so I like give I've had enough practice where that workflow kicked in, where I was like, fuck, once I was like on stage or something, and then it was like, breathe, posture, let's fucking do this. And like everything else like shuts off. And yeah, like all thoughts shut off. There's no thoughts. There's just like you rehearse this. What's the first step? There's no thoughts. There's no decisions. Start. And I think the part that that always makes me feel a lot better, when I'm like, oh right, we will have rehearsed it, and so I will know what the first thing is. And as long as I move into that state. I think, you and I have talked about a second thing that now is also really calming and soothing in the right way about that fear of performing, quote unquote, as a musician, which is when I think you were like kind of stressed out because you're like trying to be like low key about it on my behalf, but you were a little bit stressed out when you realized, oh shit, I don't think Paloma understands that the first 30, 40 performances are likely going to be to 2 to 4 people in the room.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be in some basement on tour, and it's straight up, if we're lucky, going to be 4 people there to see it. And you were like, how do I tell her this is how it works? Because she's thinking it's going to be like all of her friends and family from she's ever known, hundreds of people there packed into a sweaty, hot, amazing basement, just like there to like get religious with us, you know? And you were like found 4 different ways of like moving and telling me this, like giving me this heads up. And I was like, what is he talking about? What is he going on about? Finally, we got to like you being like, there's going to be 4 people there. Okay, that's what's typical. Like 4 people. We need to be ready for this. And I realized when you said that, I was like, my first reaction in my mind was like, I know that. But I sensed the defensiveness in my like, I know that, to be like, oh, if you're defensive, it means you didn't kind of know that. And you were not, like, maybe you weren't thinking about it, period. And he's saying, we should, not only should you think about this, but we should both be on the same page about this potentiality. And since then, one of the things we discussed was like, am I remembering this right? That I was like, oh, so we create a performance that's for 2 to 4 people. Like, we know if like we start the set and there's straight up 2 to 4 people there, we both can just lock eyes and be like, you know what to do. And I got so excited in my mind that like about the creative, like how fun it sounded to make a performance where you could just like lock into 4 people, period. And that like how amazing you're going to make it for them. And I think we talked about like, what if we made a performance that was ready for that, so that those 4 people walked out being like, that was fucking insane. I've never experienced that. Because it was for them. It's like almost lucky. It's like, you just got a special private fucking lap dance from my heart to yours. No one else was here for it but you 4. I don't know why I said lap dance. But, you know, like that level of, like, amazing private intimacy at a fun, musical, creative level. Maybe that's the wrong metaphor.
It is going to be a lap dance.
I forgot to tell you I need you to give some lap dances while I'm on the keys.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that conversation. It was actually, like, in retrospect, I wouldn't say, I guess, like, relative to the conversations we have, it was like sort of an intense conversation. Like the thing is, I have had delusions about being a musician in the past. I feel like I've like kind of gone through them, but I've worked with other people who like retain very strong delusions.
Yeah, that's fair.
About like how they understand like being a musician is, because they've never done it. And I guess like the thing about, I don't know why this is so stuck in my head. It's probably like because of traumatic experiences. It is, all right. I've had some experiences as like a musician, but like I've also seen people. I've also seen people perform to very small crowds and really like crush it, and it says a whole lot about them that they can do that as well as to like a packed room.
Yes.
And it's, to me, it's like really important that you can do that. And I guess something too that I was like nervous about was it's fine to be, to me, it's like, it's fine to be bummed if things don't go the way you hoped. But, I've maybe in somewhere back there, I've like seen meltdowns or had to like handle people who just were like crushed in that way. And it's just so uncomfortable that maybe I was like trying to protect myself by like warning you or something, or just like,
yeah,
I don't know. But I'm with you. I think like to keep in mind, I think it's fun. Like I like it. I think keeping in mind sets where there's like not a lot of people is like a really cool thing to do. But yeah, I'm just like maybe protecting myself. I'm not sure. But
that's
I do.
Very honest of you to say.
Yeah, I do remember that being like a slightly more contentious conversation than we usually have.
Yeah, because I was like, "What are you like?" I was like, "I don't know what we're like discussing here. What are you going on about?" Because, yeah, I mean, you were wrong. I am someone who has a like an optimism bias, and obviously a hyperachiever. So combine those two, and it means that I probably was sending signals, saying things that alluded to like, no, we're gonna, because I think you were like, yeah, but also maybe no one will show up. And I'm like, oh, people are going to show up. We're going to make this. And so you probably were like, I don't think she understands how this works, which is fair. But that, I think that I was speaking from like I think one of the ways that one sees success is by believing that it's possible, and that's how I do it. It's like I stay optimistic about what's possible, and in my case, success is like connecting deeply with a large group of people.
Yeah.
Not because I am connecting with a large group of people, but because if I do it right, the large group of people are connecting together. Yeah. And that's fucking beautiful.
Sure.
And to get to like create that or be part of that is pretty magical. So I was excited about that. It's still true. But I think you're right in that like until you finally were like, look, it might just be 4 people. However you like finally were just like said the worry that like, are we on the same page about this? I think you're right that I was holding or suppressing a fear that it would just be 4 people.
Yeah.
And after that conversation, rather, as part of that conversation towards the end, now I'm like, I hope we have some 4 people audiences because I already have in my head that we're going to have a cool 4-person set. Like a mode that we go into, and it would be kind of sad if we never get to try it because that sounds also very spiritually connecting or whatever, like right, like creatively intense and beautiful.
Small congregation today.
Like,
that means each of us are like more connected than usual.
Yes. And so the numbers thing just tells you which mode to kind of, which frequency to slip into.
Yeah.
You still have to read the audience regardless. Like all that's still happening because every audience is unique. But it tells you which frequency. And that's so lovely to like, now because of that conversation, I look forward to like, I think the 4-person ones as much as whatever bigger ones end up looking like. And that, I also, that was the wood stove doing...
Not really sure why. Not sure why it makes that exploding noise sometimes.
It's like a metal clinking or something.
Yeah, I guess the metal and stone in there just expands and retracts when it cools.
Something. It's still going strong though, it's nice. For sure, it also made me reflect that I was in the past with like workshops and stuff, things like that. If I expected, if I had made room for like a 12-person group, say 10-person group, and I only got 4 people registered. I always started that group having to very actively suppress my feelings of failure that I didn't fill the seats.
Right.
Even though time after time when that happened, the feedback I got from the 4 to 6 participants was like, I can't imagine that being bigger. I'm so glad that it was just the 4 of us or the 6 of us, because like that was such. And when they would say that, I'd be like, yeah, honestly, I 100% agree with you. I don't know how the workshop container that we had could have handled more, because we were just so locked in together. And yet, next group, that happened to be an 8 to 12 person group that didn't fill the seats, I would return to that little mini feeling of failure. And I think after our conversation, I did reflect, because I'm thinking now of doing these 3-day retreats, which are can hold 6 to 12 people. I was thinking about that, being like, hey, what if you design a group for 4 to 5 people that you know technically you have a format that works for 12, but you design one for 4 to 5, just like, yeah, like really designed for it as like its own special thing, because it's always been special in the past, versus being like, okay, fine, I'll work with 4. Even though, and so I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How lucky of those 4. Financially, that may not be feasible forever to have only these smaller groups, right?
Right.
And have it be financially feasible for them, right? But right now in the beginning, it's not the issue. The issue is like making sure that I've got, I'm building these programs, these 3-day retreats that feel fucking amazing to people. And I'm not going to do that if in any way I feel or they sniff that vibe from me that I'm like, well, I know it's just 4 of us, but
yes,
fuck that.
Yes.
They're just getting like an amazing crew, tight crew. Anyway, sorry. Thanks for letting me go.
Yeah.
Somewhere different with that, but
yeah, I don't know why I'm so why I like fixated on that, but yeah, I have so much interest and like respect for musicians that just handle it and do their thing, and it's great on a small audience. And like I just it's almost like playing to like, let's say like playing to a room with like 30 people in it who are all having fun and are interested in what you're doing is kind of like the easy mode. It's kind of like the easiest part, really.
Sure.
And it's probably pretty easy to get trapped into thinking that's what you need to like prepare for. I mean, it is, but like that's like the easiest mode of performing, I think. So yeah, I don't know if maybe we covered that enough, but as you can tell, I have some feelings about it for some reason. Who knows why? But yeah.
Sounds like you have an inkling of why from past people.
Yeah, I've got some experience.
People having high hopes.
Right. You got these high hopes, and it's really like, it's like specifics, so much specifics in that your heart needs, and it's like, I really like to just try and like have a steadfast heart that's like comfortable with who I am regardless of the circumstances, and I'm like proud of the music we make, and like if there's 2 people there, I'm doubly proud to share what we've worked on, because I like love what we're doing, and that's, I guess, what I was like hoping to sync with you on. So we'll get there.
I'm only quiet because I liked what you said just now a lot, and I was just hearing it. Yeah. I want to be so... think you and I are capable of balancing, by like checking in with each other and reflecting back and forth to each other, but I think we're both capable of balancing a love and fervor for what we created and are actively creating, with the desire to still read an audience and connect with them through that creation. Because there's it reminds me of that story about Prince. I guess before he was as famous as he became, he opened for the Rolling Stones, I guess. And the story goes that imagine a Rolling Stones 80s audience, 1980s Rolling Stone audience, and he came out as the opening act in his little purple kind of shiny Speedo and his crazy high boots and just wearing that and his guitar, and just came out and was like 100% the Prince we all know now. It was like just straight up walked out and that was what he delivered. There was no like, he was already that version of himself. And I guess like instantly, and for the rest of his set, they just booed him. Just booed the entire fucking set. And he just, it's like he heard none of it. Because he did the set unflinching exactly. Just like fucking nailed it. Gave it all. 100% Prince the whole way. And, yeah, they booed him off stage. Like, that was the end of the set. And there's some part of me that's like, that there's like something really inspiring and courageous about that story, also because it's Prince. That I think you and I do have a little bit of a desire to find audiences that are hungry also. So like, if we need to, we'll fucking Prince the shit out of it if needed, right? If someone starts throwing cans, I'm definitely gonna fucking double down on the set, you know, what we designed on. But like, there is this, I think, less told are the stories where the audience was like close to wanting to feel something strong, and the band was just 10% too timid or comfortable or safe. And so neither reached the threshold of like fucking magic together. And that's fine. That's like, those are untold, like endless, infinite stories where that happens. And I'm just so curious, which is maybe where that gambling analogy comes in to like, I know there's going to be fucking duds. Maybe some straight up fucking hostile audiences. I've dealt with them before as a trainer. But I have an optimism that we're not just there to perform our set the way we love it. We're also like there to perform a set the way we love it, because we know there's like there's like somewhere out there, there's a human just being like ready to get pushed past that threshold. It's just a little nudge, and that's what we're there to do. So yeah. But yeah, if they throw shit at me, I'm going to double down.
Yeah.
I'm not backing up.
That's just good stories.
But yeah, they make amazing stories. So then Paloma started rolling on the floor and took her top off, but put Derek's top on her, and now Derek was shirtless, and that seemed to actually, they stopped throwing shit then.
I really believe...
This is your team.
I really believe it's unlikely that we would be able to even elicit the same reaction that Prince got, you know? But this
Prince is Prince.
The vibe is still the same, or the thing is still the same that we're talking about, which is like, you know, you do see this a lot with people that like don't have a crap load of experience performing, which is like, you get the sense that they aren't, it's like they'll buckle a little bit basically under the pressure, and it's like they're not aware that everyone in the audience wants them to succeed or something, you know what I mean? And they'll just like buckle because, you know, that lack of experience or, you know, whatever, they aren't ready, this or that, they, you know, it is what it is, but like, it does really feel like there's kind of a collaboration between audience and performer.
Yeah, that's a nice way of paraphrasing that.
So I probably focus on this element so much because I struggle with it, and that is like taking the opportunity to step up to the plate is like personally really important here. Yeah.
I have faith that we will. I was reading the description of what's that band? I was just Big Thief. I think the lead singer was describing. She was like, "Yeah, when we work on music together, there's like a magic that none of us have been able to explain." And like multiple times, she used the word magic in a way that. You could tell she wasn't like, yeah, it's magic. Like she was saying like, she had wonder in her voice, like awe at it, something outside of them that happened. It was neat to read, and I just get the sense that you and I performing together there's like nowhere unsafe to fall together because we're together. Because we can just like lock eyes and be like, there's no hard surface at the bottom. So let's just have fun falling, free falling, if we need to, because I just had a visual.
Yeah, well, hold on, before you say that, like, this is like an important thing that I've discovered in this life, basically, which is like, it's important for me, like a big part of what I want to contribute, I guess, to you and maybe like anyone I'm friends with is like, if we bomb, I'm still here like completely, you know what I mean? That's like, I guess that's just important for me, and I think like knowing that, I think having that knowledge like really makes the whole thing like a lot more fun, and it's more likely things go well if you know that people like have your back. I don't think everyone knows. I don't think everyone's in that position, so.
I feel like you were feeling a lot then, as you said that. Like you maybe felt a thing and then like, speaking of which, backed away just enough to not feel it for too long, because it was...
Yeah. Maybe potent. There's some potency. I'm working on sharing more of that here, I guess, and in general. But yeah, it's important. It's like an important thing. And like all the stuff we talk about with performing, like, it kind of like mirrors life. Like all of these things are like important in life. So it's kind of just like a really distilled version of life that you get if you're like in a band or something and you're like playing on stage. Like you get a real close look at like what your makeup is at that point. And I guess with everything in my life, like, for whatever reason, I've just come to this point where it's like, it's really important to me that you know that you can't, like, really fail, in my eyes. Yeah.
I'm feeling that a lot. I think I know that, but when you use words, it's like, oof, extra. I get to feel it in multiple dimensions, so. We did talk about that early on, that like, yeah, actually like locking eyes and being like, I'm always in your corner. Like maybe we were using a UFC analogy, like I'm your corner, and like your corner always is 100% fucking about you, even if you lose.
Yeah, your corner doesn't, like, come away after the fight you lost and start acting weird and, like, like, text you less and shit.
Your corner's like, you're fucking amazing. We all worked so hard for this moment. We know what to do next. We're going to get back in there when you're ready and start training. We love you. Like, there's so much love. It's so clear. And there's coaching teams between them and their fighter. There's so much fucking love. And so I think we were maybe using that analogy since we now at that point both knew it. But yeah, like, yeah. I mean, I think you even told me once, like, even if we ever stop dating and that's no longer a part of our relationship, like, I'm here. I'm here for your, I forget how you worded it, but like your success. And I was like, I think I started crying because I was like, what do you mean? Are you pretty movie? But I understood what you meant, that like this transcends the romance part. I felt that. I feel that. Yeah, there's I think the visual I got was like we both have these like these little wings on, and I think they're not so big that when we each in the past before we met each other, that like when we had to perform or show up and be brave in like a really fucking hard moment, sometimes the wings were just like not strong enough to like keep us buoyant, and we you know, it was like maybe it was the safest thing to back up a bit because we realized our wings just can't weather this storm alone. They're not built for that. And I had this really sweet visual when we were just talking of like us being on stage, and if something got hard or weird or unexpected, right? Like it wasn't going to, you know, along with the vibe that we were excited for, that we could just lock eyes and just know, like, hold on, because we both got wings, and now we've got two strong pair of wings. There's like, we're good. The storm is fine. Okay, we'll land softly. And we'll have a really fucking good story to laugh about tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
It's magic to... I think it mattered that we both had to do a lot of this work on our own first. Or you know, or with, like, with people behind us or with us that, like, you know, it was a shaky relationship, or it was hard to... Yeah, whatever it was. So that in the end we still were kind of carrying a load that was pretty big on our own. I definitely did that for a long time, and I think it's helpful because now I'm like, I know what I'm capable of. I know a bare minimum of what I'm capable of. And I had to survive through on my own. How fucking cool to not have to do it alone anymore. It's very lucky. serendipitous.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today. Like, people say it a lot, but, you know, life's like, I guess the way I'm thinking of it now is life's like just like a boiling pot and you're like a potato or something. And so,
Oh my god.
you know, right when maybe you're only in there for like 25 years, this potato takes a long time to boil.
That is a
25 years, it's like you still can't really like stick a fork into the middle of it, you know, it's still like kind of hard. So like, yeah, I don't know, I just like was thinking about my career, I guess I have to call it, because I've been doing it for 12 years, and like, maybe not everything was lost. Spending all of that time on that thing that I never liked. It's like I gained something from that, and one of the things I gained is maybe like, well, like one example I think is like it's a lot easier for me than it was to see, like, to understand or support someone who wants to do something a little different, maybe, or has some other reason that they want to do something, or and yeah. So I just think, I guess all I'm saying is like just being alive year after year. I think like emotionally we learn things in a real way that you like could never learn just by like reading about it. I think like, I mean, this is a very conventional opinion, but yeah. Could we have started Mirror House 8 years ago? Probably not.
no. I know this. I don't mean I know I can't know this, but this was the timing is everything about what we've each gone through before this, before we met. Was that your conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, where you are today, like emotionally, you know, spiritually, probably wasn't where you were 8 years ago, and that's just like the tumble of life. And I don't think, you know, I don't know if I understood. I think I was late to learn a lot of these things because I like what I just said about like having your like being there just the same even if you fail. Like I really think there's some like 15-year-olds that understand this concept, you know, like deep in their hearts. But maybe they don't understand something else. I don't know. It's just, yeah, you know, we're all on like a different path, and we all are learning different things at a different rate in different directions, and not sure where I was going with this, but it is something that I was thinking about today.
I have a question for you, but I think I think a lot about the timing, in that even had I, like, it just feels so weirdly accurate, like, if I would have met you 6 months prior, something would have still like been off in my head, the distractions I had, that it would have like, it's almost like, this is the first time that I feel like that funny theory that like, if you were to change time and go back and like change it so that we met 6 months prior, that I would have been doing something, making decisions in a way that would have still stalled, or like say creative collaboration 6 months then, so that like it still was on track. Like it corrects, like it feels like it wouldn't, there's no it all just feels like it clicks together, and it makes me that much more think. It makes me maybe this goes to my question for you, in that like I think just a year or two ago, maybe even less than that, I was quick to self-judge that I oh, if I'd only quit that job sooner, or if like I finished that project more faster, or if I would have launched 1111 smaller. Like I had a lot of these. I'm not a person that has deep regrets that like gnaw at me, but I do have, like I did keep this little tally of like what ifs that are still kind of like, oh, what if I would have opened the store? I used to own a store. The store with like half the square footage and thus half the rent. Maybe it would have survived, you know? So they're more like trying to glean lessons from the past. But there's a little bit of a wishing maybe you had the chance to do it differently, or unsure if the outcome was what you would have chosen on your own, like having to close the store. Or I had a list of those, and I don't even think about those anymore, because I'm like, well, if the store would have continued, I would have not gone on to a creative sabbatical at all. If the store had been successful, I'd been burnt out and actively being told by everyone what a success I was. And I would be just a fried fucking mess. And still on that wheel. So now I'm like, oh, all of it was on track. All of it was on track. And so, to get to my question for you, when you said that you were thinking about a 12-year career, is that a little bit what you meant? That like, it was all part, it's like, it was part of the track. It was part of the like path that you were supposed to be on. Yeah.
I think I like try to negate what I learned, or like what really important thing, like actually important things I learned from it. And yeah, maybe it like wasn't really the wrong direction or anything like that. It was like a perfectly valid way to go, and who I am now maybe, couldn't have happened. Of course, yeah, there's plenty to say about it, but I think I did learn some things that actually mattered from this whole experience. Yeah.
By what you mean, though? Kind of programming, dev career.
Yeah, I think you do still learn from just like grinding. Something very important is still getting learned in all those years.
Yeah, I mean, I see you turning down that career right now because you notice you're done. You're done with it. I think that's the difference, is like, the message isn't You can always glean something. There's always a silver lining, so keep fucking grinding for the rest of your life.
Right.
If you think they're still, like we were saying, like if your bank accounts are being cared for, you know, what spiritual, creative, whatever each person's accounts that matter, that's your choice 100%. But it makes sense that part of your story that's really critical is that, like, it's really important. I think it seems that an important part of your story is likely going to be that you did grind and learn how to, like, not just survive in that world, but, like, really perform, really, like, fucking deliver. You really learned how to mold yourself to, like, this very specific tech dev world. And you did it. And then at some point, a really critical part of the story is that you were, like, looked around and you're like, cool, I'm done. Yeah. We're good then. Cool, y'all.
Yeah, weird. I mean, not every, like, really can't stress how individuated our like paths are. But I think I really did have to know that I could do it. I had to, like, prove it, like, beyond all doubt. I don't know why, I just did. There's a lot of reasons why. And, yeah, I think I've seen enough there.
You called it. Like, knowing when to just call it and be like, I think I know I say this a lot, but I just think we live in a culture that seems unhealthily obsessed with one-track growth. Like, if once you find a career that you seem to be growing, your bank account, your shelter account, whatever, your money account, like, and it's going, you know, that line is going diagonally always up, that should continue. If growth is happening, in this case, financial growth, career growth, that should be infinite. Go for the infinite. I think it's funny that we don't value things dying. That we are so uncomfortable with every kind of death, including killing our careers. Right? Like, all things die. Let it fucking die. This thing is on fucking life support. Yeah. I look dead and like a zombie inside, and you all won't let me fucking go, right? And then we realize we're the main ones keeping us on life support in that career, because we just can't face that there's anything after this death, because we're just so uncomfortable with death in this, especially in the U.S. Like, in Mexico, we've got a very different relationship with death. But I do think that, like, if I were to tell my Mexican family, like, oh yeah, I just shut down that career and I'm going to try a new thing, they'd be like, huh, she must have gotten bored. They wouldn't be like, are you fucking insane? They'd just be like, huh, I think there's just, like, things die. And I think there's something really, I have my theories about why this culture is so fixated on that, but letting things, Derek, we planted this front garden, and it's, I think, your first, like, actively designed, like, multi-season garden, maybe? Is my understanding correct?
Oh yeah, but it's my first by a long shot.
And so we planted, we held off on tearing up all of the front yard grass and planting what will be a what is a drought tolerant garden. We held off on that until the fall, when it's like nonstop rains here in Portland, and so you get to plant and take advantage of that. And there's been a few times when like one of the plants is looking like it's dying, and Derek rushes to it very lovingly and is like, "Oh no, this one's doing this or that." And I've said to you, "Oh yeah, it's gonna do that because winter. It's dying. The leaves, right? It's what is above the ground is dying. It's going to die, Derek. Winter is coming, and this plant is a perennial, which means it will die. The top of it, right? What we can see will die. And what matters is that we planted it with plenty of time so that it could build roots. And now, for the winter, the roots are all the actions happening at the roots. And all we have to do is make sure that it didn't die before, freezing weather comes, like totally. But if it's slowly dying, this is what it's doing. And I've said it to you twice. I'm like, yeah, that is what's supposed to happen. And you just rush and lovingly go to it, right? And I'm like, oh, right, he hasn't seen this cycle. It doesn't make sense that you plant a garden and 2 months later the fucking plant dies and you shouldn't give a shit. So I'm not saying that this is an example of you not being okay with death. I think it's just like, that's how I see this culture a lot around careers, even relationships. I mean, as someone who just, left a marriage, I do think it's because we don't have people around us like death doulas, elders, all these things that other cultures do, to be like, any death that occurs, any loss is a thick part of our existence. It's like what makes your soul ecosystem, your social ecosystem work. It's part of it is cycles of grieving and loss, or just loss and death. I wish that, I do wish our families are some of our friends that, if you were to be like, oh yeah, I may have reached the end of my career and I'm ready to try something else, so for now I'm going to do a soul sabbatical. I wish they'd be like, whoa. And see that essentially you're being reborn, but you can't be reborn and have two lives at once. One has to die. I'm not saying you're killing your career, by the way, but it should be perfectly fine too. Let it go.
Yeah, I could probably just kill it. I mean, I'm never going to lose what I learned, so theoretically, I could probably resume it. But
your career might be a perennial.
Yeah, maybe it's a perennial, maybe.
Or one of those plants, raspberries. There's a raspberry plant, like a raspberry type.
Maybe it's a cicada.
It could be a cicada every 10 years.
Yeah. For 3 months, I do it every 10 years.
I like this. I moved into a house once that had a raspberry plant that I didn't realize was one that fruits every 2 years. But you have to cut it back a shit ton exactly at the right time in its off year, which of course I didn't. And so then the second year when finally I was supposed to get some, it didn't. So then we were on some fucked up 3-year cycle. And I didn't know that there could be so many different growth cycles. I just thought there's perennials and annuals. Bam, done. Cicadas clearly prove us wrong. Mm-hmm. I like this.
Yeah. There's a lot that's interesting about it. Yeah. But, I am very excited about the next thing that I'm doing right now, and it scares me a little bit. That's good.
Death is scary.
I'm so happy, at least given my current plans. I'm like really thrilled that I was able to do this early enough, you know? Because like, I assume it gets harder to do night shift jobs over time. I don't know if that's true. That might just be a story people tell themselves, but like, I just feel like I'm like really grateful that my body and everything is like fully capable of doing the things that I'm like interested in doing. Is that a thing?
Nothing is ever too late.
There we go.
First of all, I've heard this from enough people starting things at wild years of their life that everyone around them is like, it's too late. They're like, is it? And then they try it. They're like, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a fake piece of advice. It is that you won't be able to do it because it's too late.
It's too late. I think it might be too late to, I don't know. Yeah, I think humans continue exceeding their own world records, for example, constantly.
Yeah.
What is the current record on a mile?
Oh, 1 mile. I'm not sure. It's probably like 3:48 or something.
Yeah, and it used to be like unthinkable to get it under 5.
Somebody got a marathon like under 2, maybe more than one person. Under 2 hours.
So whatever. I forgot what I was going to say about. Oh, I think I'm learning that, 20-30% of the population are natural night owls, which is defined not by what you've accustomed your brain to do, but that you actually perform. Your brain performs better at night. So they have a different way of measuring it, I guess. But that's like a significant portion of the population that is still being told the story that like you have a circadian rhythm that rises with the sun. It's like that's technically true for 70 to 80% of the population, it seems, but not true for everyone. And this kind of makes sense because there isn't a culture that doesn't have some work that could be useful to do at night.
Yeah, there's
like
stuff
keep the
that
fucking fire going.
Yeah, there's stuff that has to happen 24 hours of the day.
To some degree, right? I mean, I imagine in most cultures there's something that is, or not has to, but like is beneficial.
Right.
Like maybe there's certain game that we're vegan, by the way, for the record, but like maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Societies that actually are, in a rhythm with nature, unlike us. Yeah, there's certain game that only are out like at 2 a.m.
Yeah, or just like keeping watch, like you're protecting, like you would imagine, like
tending the fire.
I took so much like shit for being awake at 5 a.m. when I was a teenager. There might have been some time in history where it's like, hey, like Derek's just like up at 5. Like, thank you so much.
Exactly. And that's obviously true now. And so as someone who I'm not in no way am I a night owl, I really see how there's like a part of you that shifts into a different gear at night. And there's some nights when you're tired, right? Around 9 or 10, but many nights where I'm like, I see it starts revving up and I'm like, this makes sense. I think this could be true for you. So as far as like age, that also changes for people. There's plenty of people that, I think my dad has some wild sleep schedule, or he used to, where like he falls asleep at 7 p.m., though he says he's still watching TV. We all know he's dead asleep.
Yeah, does he do that thing where if you ask if he's awake, he like snaps awake to say yes and then goes back to sleep?
And immediately he's back to sleep. So he's like falls asleep in front of the TV at 5 or 7 p.m. And then I think around like midnight wakes up and reads newspapers or he used to again, like around midnight, and he just reads and reads and reads, learns, and then like at 3 a.m. goes back to sleep, and then he's up at like 5. And I asked him once, like, wait, you what? And when he described his sleep schedule, and I could tell that he had like hit it, probably because he got shit from people about it. And that it was like a new thing to be like, that's my sleep schedule. And I was like, really? And it was like, he said, yeah. And I said, are you tired? And he was like, yeah, I'm retired. I nap when I want. So like, this is my ideal schedule. Like,
oh, okay.
So he's like, and I was like, so when do you nap? And he was like, yeah, around like 2 p.m. And I was like, that's dope. Like, that's great. He's those folks who know, I mean, you've met my father and seen him at work in our front yard with a fucking rototiller. Yeah. He's 70 and like a beast.
He's not tired.
He's never tired. My father never looks tired.
Like, yeah, it's shocking to hear that he's 70. That's impossible.
Good genes.
Good genes.
Yeah, and that's, I think, I wonder if you, I guess with your new freedom schedule, if you allow yourself to be like, when am I just like creative and just fucking pumped? When am I tired? When am I social? When am I like not social and don't want to be around Paloma talking? Whatever. You might get to just work out your own schedule.
I mean, when I've done this in the past, I slip into like going to sleep at 4 or 5 a.m. like rapidly. Mm-hmm. But I'm not just trying to be completely unemployed this time. So we'll see what happens. And the other thing too is, I mean, I was definitely interested in being awake in the middle of the night between the ages of like 14 and at least 14, at least like all of high school. And, you know, evidentially when I don't have a schedule, I just slip right into it. But like, I'm not even sure if that's like my natural schedule. I just know that I am excited to be awake at 2 a.m. I can't explain why.
Go with it.
Yeah, so it's like, why should I have to like reject that feeling? I don't know why I should have to reject that feeling, especially if I can like do something helpful to people. That sounds so amazing to me. I can be helpful at 2 a.m. That means I get to drink a coffee at like 9 p.m.
Which is all you want to do in life.
I say this like every other day now. I'm like, God, I can't wait until I can drink a coffee right now. And it's like 8 o'clock. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited by it. So this is now an exercise and not just just shutting down those voices. Just like, hey, let's just like go with what is like what sounds exciting and what you really want to be doing, whether it makes any sense or not to anybody else. Like, I'm just interested in that right now, so.
I like it.
Are we wrapping up here?
Sure, yeah, I'm really excited for you to, just feel like you're not constantly negotiating with some outside externality, especially of a fucking job that knows nothing about you, cares nothing about you, like family or like friend. You know, it's a job. I just like, I'm excited for you to just design those things. I think you once shared, you were like, maybe you worried that because I'm not a night owl, I'm quite the opposite. I go, my preference is to like fall asleep at 9 or 10. Wake up at 6-ish. Not my preference. Again, that's not my preference. That's what my body does. So I'm fucking tired at 8 or 9 usually. That like, oh no, like how would we? But then when we did them, we kind of just like described the days. I was like, it seemed really sweet that like you might be coming home or finishing a project at like 5 or 6. And I'd get to be excited about then waking up at 6. Because then I'd get to see you before you. So you would be having a tea.
Oh, yeah.
And I would make my coffee. And we'd like cuddle and talk about your shift and my day. And you'd head off into sleepland. And I would start my day. And what, like at 1 or 2 you wake up? 2 p.m., 3?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So then we'd check in. You make coffee. I would be drinking tea at that point in the afternoon. And then we have some time to work together, collaborate, or just work side by side. Make dinner. And I cuddle with a book because you're off to, I don't know, paint or work a night shift. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like...
Why not?
Love the idea. So, I thought we might talk about Paloma's Trello board, or just, like I got to go through my list of primary activities. We didn't even hit all of them. We skipped, like, skateboarding.
We skipped more even, like, significant ones, like the Bonanza Bazaar.
Right.
And there was another one that we're like, that's so funny, we just totally forgot that one. There's many things on the carousel.
Yeah, the carousels. Yeah. But we'll do that another day.
I'm fine with that. Maybe I'm just in denial of all the things and don't want to describe the carousel. My carousel.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm honoring that I only have to hold 2 in my head.
I like that anyway. We don't need to. I mean, we'll be talking about these things.
They'll come up on their own as I'm like, fuck, you know what I just realized?
Right.
Is tomorrow, never mind about replacing the glass in the south room because it's a busted window. Actually, I just remembered that I'm supposed to make a costume for X or Y thing. I don't know.
Yeah. It'll all come up. It's just funny. I guess I like it because everything we do is like a part of this like ecosystem of things we're working on. It's like nothing's unaccounted for. I don't know. Maybe that sounds bad actually, but I like it. So I like what you're working on, but maybe we won't go through it in a huge list in one episode. We'll just let them come up.
Yeah.
That sounds
well,
good.
Or maybe at the next one we can actually start with that question. Like, what are the things that are feeling really kind of integrated and overlapping and part of the ecosystem already, and what are the ones kind of floating outside? I like that question. What's currently part of our life ecosystem already? Whether or not we're like actively working on it, it's just pinned. It's part of it.
Right.
Because that is what's really neat about all the projects. Is so many of them are. I just keep using the word integrated. Like so many parts of my life feel all integrated. It's weird. Versus like. I used to have a notebook that had 5 different sections in it. They were color-coded. My work, my this, my that. And my current one is just... it just flows. So instead I'm using these little stickers that when I'm like, oh, this is for the post-capitalist workbook project. But also kind of touches on the retreats. But I think there's a little bit of content here for the band So now there's like 3 little different color stickers on the edge of that page, and I love that. I'm like, so when I'm looking, I'm like working on the band stuff or lyrics for the band. I'm like looking through, and I'm like, okay, so this one's color coded. That there's retreat stuff on here and like a workbook. So where's the lyric? And I'm like, oh, I see the lyric now. It's so good.
Yeah.
So next time.
Yeah, some other time.
Okay.
All right. See you later.